Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Industries Live stream today. This is a show we do every other Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So subscribe wherever you're watching. And what we do on this show is we talk about industries and how industries relate to AWS and the cloud, and how industries relate to our partners and our partners that are building really interesting, differentiated line of business solutions that are being solved for by building on AWS and solving those really interesting challenges. So what we do is we get to talk to really interesting partners, hear from them, what are they seeing in the industry, and talk and have a great time. And my name is Jason O'Malley. I'm a senior partner solutions architect here on the AWS partner team. I'm part of our Industry Solutions Center of Excellence. And today I'm normally broadcast from Chicago. I'm in a special office today because I'm actually in Amsterdam. So we do have a chat. We do like to hear where everyone's watching from. So if you feel compelled, drop in the chat, let us know where you all are watching from out in the live streaming world. And with that, I'll pass it off to my co-host, Addy, to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Jason. I'm so excited about this week to come on Industries Live. I lead our industry solutions team for financial services. So our team focuses on working with our trusted partners, our technology and consulting partners to solve for line of business challenges that matter to our customers. And so with each episode, we really want to stress on how our industry solutions are able to help customers solve for their business needs and the total impact, both across productivity, economics, and cost that they get to see as part of those combined solutions that come together on AWS. I'm really excited about this week's episode. We're going to talk about how GenAI has been transforming, accelerating production-grade workloads moving over with GenAI, but the wider productivity improvements that are coming across. And I have some fascinating views on the demos coming up today, so it should be a really fun episode.
I agree. And as you know, this week we're focusing on financial services. Next week we'll rotate to another industry, probably media and entertainment. So it's exciting to see, and we're excited for our partners that are on today. So we've got Anthropic and Iron Mountain, and we're going to dive in deep into financial services. And so with that, Addy, should we bring on our first guest?
Yeah, excited about that.
All right. Hi, JP. Awesome. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Hey, gang. Thanks for having us. It's good to be back.
Yeah, JP, you're a repeat guest already. So welcome back. Thanks for coming back.
I love AWS and our friends dialed in. So I'm thankful to be able to be here again.
Appreciate it. And Nicholas, I think first time for you. So welcome to the stream for you.
Very excited to be here. Also a big fan of AWS.
Great.
Yeah. I actually am excited to have the Anthropic team because, they are right at the forefront of the action. Their teams are really seeing the patterns as they come. They're learning about the industry. And, I'm sure the audience wants to just know the story, right? JP, Nicholas, you're in the speedboat of GenAI. Like, what's it like? What's the Anthropic journey been? And tell us about a day in the life, actually, as you introduce yourselves.
It's been fast and furious and wonderful at the same time. So I am JP. I oversee our financial services vertical at Anthropic, which, like it sounds, means my team and I support the largest banks, insurance companies, asset managers in the world and getting the most out of our technology. And oftentimes we do that in partnership with our friends at AWS. And a day in the life, and then I'll pass it over to Nick, whose days are even more hectic than mine. A day in the life is really meeting with our partners, diving deep and understanding what is top of mind for them. And by that, I mean, not how can I use AI to edit my emails or use AI to summarize a 3-page document. It's more, how do I apply this technology to move the needle at a board level or move the needle at, the highest level of the business, whether that's a significant driver for net new revenue or a transformative driver on the cost savings front. And these are the types of conversations we have because the shift we've seen in the past year and a half is very much from dipping the toe in the AI waters, because obviously there's a lot of unknown, and in regulated businesses like banks and insurance, that's a scary place. From that a year and a half ago to jumping right into the pool, so to speak. So that's kind of more the stage we're at now, and starting to take this stuff to production in a meaningful way. That's a bit about how I'm spending my day, and then Nick, you could share a bit about how you did the same.
Thanks, JP. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lin, and I lead product for Claude for financial services. I've spent my entire career in finance and in fintech, including being a recovering investment banker and private equity investor. So a lot of the problems that we're talking about today and we've been spending time thinking about are just really near and dear to my heart. I've been with Anthropic for a little bit over a year and a half now, which is frankly, I think a decade in AI lifetime. It's just been really unique to be able to work at a company that is enterprise focused and that is a research lab at heart, right? Something I think about really often is that the models we interact with today are the worst they will ever be. But even today, Claude is not only state of the art when it comes to code, which is what everyone talks about, but Claude within its training corpus has been really fantastic at finance domain knowledge as well. So something that we pride ourselves on is what we call the research and product flywheel. So it's really important for us to work with customers like yourselves to really understand where the models themselves are working, where the gaps are, and borrowing a term that we use internally, hill climb to really improve the next generation of model capabilities. Right. So I think we're really on a journey together here. And the only way for us to move forward as an organization is to work really closely with partners like AWS and customers like yourselves.
Great. I appreciate that background. It's great to meet you and kind of get a sense of like how your roles differ and such. And I know one of the things we're going to talk about today that we talked about a little bit earlier this week and last week was the Claude for financial analysis. But I was wondering, Addy, anything around the industry before we dive into that you want to talk about first?
Yeah, no, I think we should really dive into the use cases that we're seeing. I think, across capital markets, banking, payments, and insurance, there is a massive amount of activity. But each of these subsectors are kind of approaching this very differently. On the AWS side, we've been seeing the way that organizations are really getting their data right. They've understood that I cannot make most of GenAI unless I have my data well collated, curated, publisher subscriber structures, access through warehouses. The other area we're seeing is like context is king. And so I'm really curious, what are the Anthropic teams seeing? What are y'all seeing as key trends playing out? And anything that's been, raising an eyebrow as you're seeing customers accelerate in GenAI?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a couple observations we're making of late. And one touches on exactly what you just shared, the simplest formula, I would put out there for the folks watching is, and I often come with I reference a metaphor, like if we're the cooks, then our partners provide the recipes, which is the context, and the ingredients, which is the data, and we work together to make wonderful meals, so to speak. So a lot of the time spent right now, and the advantage to these models is when people talk about structured data this, structured data that, they're actually very good at unstructured data. But data in itself, it's not enough just to do deep research on the web. Well, it's cool, if you're a large insurance company and you've got rules and regulations for how you underwrite, you're not just like going rogue and Googling stuff, right? So the ability to actually reference those internal data sets is the difference between something being usable in a production level or not. So while we spend a lot of time to make sure there's access to those data sources, we're really investing in making it easier. And this is for those that are watching that are familiar with MCP or Model Context Protocol. We're trying to bridge the gap because it's easier said than done. But well, yeah, sure, you want elegant access to all of our internal data in a safe and responsible way. But how do I actually bring that to life? And MCP has helped bridge that gap significantly. So now the time to value for our partners has improved very, very, very quickly, because now if I'm working with you and you're a bank and you're doing, let's say, a KYC use case, well, historically, to actually start feeding a large language model that data in a responsible, safe way was actually just a huge lift. But increasingly, it's becoming a much easier task. So these are the types of things that we're focused on. And then similarly with context, a model is really good and capable, and Claude is, arguably the best in the areas that we focus on. But without the guidance on whether it's the claims adjuster or the financial controller and the investment researcher, like they've been doing that for 20 years. So when Nick and I talk about doing research and meeting with partners, we want to hear from you on what are the steps you take in your day-to-day, and how can we translate those steps to the context or the instructions, if you will? Because without good instructions, a model it can only do so much for you. And those are some of the things we kind of are reiterating right now for our partners, to get right and invest time up front to map out those instructions, map out like, okay, what data sets do you actually need to do this use case? And then Claude's pretty good at doing the rest. And then obviously we advise on how to get the most out of it. Those are just some of the kind of themes that we're seeing right now, but I'd love to hear from Nick on his take.
Yeah, for sure. I think we think about trust often at Anthropic. These models are extremely capable today already. We think about even if research progress completely stopped, there's a lot that we can do in just translating model capabilities into things that are useful for humans, right? And I think we think about trust in three main components. One is these capabilities themselves need to be tailored to the use cases and the workflows that demonstrate that we understand what those are, right? We want to make sure that the model can start building reports like pitch decks and investment memos, analyze and create data like benchmarking analyses, or reading and writing PowerPoint, Excel documents. These are fundamentally useful human things that we need to make sure the model can really do. And that's a lot of where the product energy really goes into, translating model intelligence into what we call agentic capabilities, which is just a fancy word to really say, hey, these are useful tasks for humans, right? The second thing is understanding what these workflows are. How can we enable the users, the analysts, the insurers to really trust Claude's responses? I think that has two components to it as well. One is the model needs to be able to show the user what its thought process is, right? There's a really important feature that we've built called extended thinking. As a part of extended thinking, Claude is really exposing every single step that it is thinking about of exactly how it's going to create that model, what data it's going to retrieve, and how it's going to validate that answer. I think showing that transparency to the user is really important, right? Me as a manager, if I wanted to check my analyst's work, I really need to be able to see the traces and the citations. I think the second most important thing when it comes to enabling trust is connecting Claude to the right context and to the right data sources, right? Without connections to many of our core partners, MCP servers, as JP mentioned, like FactSet, S&P, and others, many of the AI solutions today simply hallucinate financial numbers, right? That makes it essentially useless when it comes to doing financial analysis. That's why a really core part of our financial analysis solution is enabling Claude to connect to those data sources and doing that in a verifiable way. Every single time that a number is retrieved from one of our partners, Claude is going to tell you exactly where it came from, including giving you a hyperlink to check the underlying data source. The last component that we think about is we need to make sure that our customers know how to engage with these powerful solutions, right? I think the product solutions themselves are great, but we think very often about change management and how we can provide our customers with education, deployment, and support to really guide our users when it comes to what are the models good at today. It's not good at everything, right? It's still going to take time, but how can we incrementally unpack the things that the models are good at and guide our customers on our journey? So I think those three components of trust is what we think about often in really enabling our users to really achieve repeatable and high quality outcomes when it comes to our model capabilities.
And I really appreciate the way the Anthropic team has really focused on that enterprise customer, because a lot of what you all described comes down to really understanding how these mid-tier firms, large firms, extremely global scale, systematically important financial institutions, how do they apply these technologies along those best practices that they expect? Because they're answerable to their regulators. They're answerable for that traceability of the data source. They cannot say, well, I kind of think it came from there. They need to know exactly where it came from. And so, having that MCP structure that pulls that market data feed, making it really easy to trace back where that data came from and that it's in the frame and template that gets followed in the organization. And then last but not least, building that trust, because the biggest concern customers had through 2024 and 2023 was hallucination. And we're nearly at the crux of having eliminated that with the clarity and traceability of where did I source that particular insight from. So spot on about each of those, and really keen to kind of think about how we can take those to customers.
And I think one of the things you started to allude to is just taking the capabilities of Claude and the models that Anthropic has made and making them fit the needs of the financial services customers. I'm wondering at this point, do you want to talk a little bit about Claude for financial analysis and what features that brings to bear for those customers, and if there's any elements about how it utilizes AWS?
Yeah, I'll let Nick speak to the specific features. I think I can touch on the observations we made, which Nick alluded to. And we see this with everyone dialed in. I'm sure you can relate, where these models out of the box, so whether you're using like a public-facing Claude.ai chat or an enterprise version of it, you still have to kind of go to it, give it very clear instructions, then upload the documents you want to analyze and double check the answers. And it's amazing that it can do these things, but it's a meaningful lift. So in working with so many of our partners in the financial space and sitting with them and understanding, like literally asking, like, hey, what prevents you from getting more out of this technology? Basically, time and time again, we started to hear it's just there's too much friction. There's a reliability component. How do I know the answers are right? To Nick's comment, and Addy, you touched on this beautifully. It's not enough that it's like, maybe it's right. Obviously, if you're investing or underwriting, that's like the litmus test I give it is, imagine asking like the smartest colleague in your office, hey man, hey woman, can you get back to me on this number? And they give you a number. You're probably not like, wait a minute, let me double check the number you just emailed me, right? Or you're like, I just literally blindly trust that person. They gave it to me. I know they know what they're doing. That's kind of where we're looking to get to. And I think we're very close to that level of kind of faith. But that is what, in those interviews, that is what helped us kind of pause and say, okay, how can we bring to life the best that our partners at AWS can bring and the best of what Anthropic can bring to like bridge this gap? And I'll let Nick speak to the practical and tactical things we've done to bring this Claude for financial analysis to life.
Thanks, JP. So we've announced the Claude financial analysis solution back in July, which is Anthropic's first industry offering, and it's built specifically for finance. And that's across both financial services and corporate finance use cases. I think about the three pillars that this solution is really built upon. And these are the pillars that comprise of an agent. First are the model capabilities themselves. As I mentioned, Claude is not just state of the art when it comes to code. Code is a really powerful and flexible skill, right? Code is actually what Claude uses to analyze documents and do data analysis at scale and even create Excel documents and PowerPoint as well. So Claude has been trained on finance knowledge as well as the ability to use code to really engender real-world applications. The next pillar of the solution is what we think about, again, agent capabilities built on top of these models. It's not enough that these models exist on the API, right? We really want to make sure that we're building the product scaffolding to translate model intelligence into useful tasks for humans. And that includes the most important work for analysts, right? Such as, building multimodal reports like pitch decks, investment memos, analyzing and visualizing data like benchmarking analyses, comparables, and price and volume performance. What I used to spend, a few hours just building a stock price and volume chart, Claude can do this in just about 2 minutes with a connection to S&P or FactSet. And I think the last thing is natively reading and writing PowerPoint Excel documents is something we're really excited about. We really want to meet users where they are, right? Claude should not just exist within the Claude for Enterprise surface, but we want to make sure that Claude can be everywhere, right? Claude is really meeting users where they are. And I think that's where we really think about the third pillar, which is how do we deliver our capabilities through the flexible platform? Our solution is really, I think, one of the first solutions in the market with what we call unified intelligence across all of the core data sources that our customers work in every single day. That includes working with our industry leaders like S&P, FactSet, PitchBook, and others to build these critical data integrations, in addition to internal data sources like Databricks, Snowflake, Microsoft, and Box as well, with many more to come in the future. So, we think about connecting Claude to these core pieces of context to really enable its success. But I think very importantly, we're also delivering white glove finance-specific onboarding and implementation to really assist our customers with deployment, education, and change management as well. We want to make it as easy to get started as possible. I think here's where the partnership with AWS has been really transformative. The solution is available on AWS Marketplace, and our AWS partners have been really important in guiding us in terms of what they're hearing in the market, what the needs are from the customers, and really guiding our customers in how to adopt these solutions with the incremental set of trust that we think about.
That's great. Yeah, good. And that call out for the AWS Marketplace so you can procure this because it's expanded and specifically tailored to the industry. Is there anything else to mention upon in terms of like partners or professional services, like elements that help get, say, like a financial services customer up and running and what that process looks like?
At least on the AWS side, I'm really keen on that demo. I'm super excited because one of the first things that we have to do as we engage together, it's a core part of the partnership, Jason. It's good. Glad you called that out. Something we do is we really think about the key personas at our customers and the demos that they're going to see the most value from. And so workshops often are inclusive of game days or what we call as immersion days. We'll spend between a day to 2 days showcasing what's possible. And then we kind of do deep assessments and workshops with our system integration partners who will run on the ground workshops with the application owners, the production teams, and help do those migrations. So it takes a village. It's a massive amount of work, but I think it comes down to making it really easy to get started. And what's impressive about the Cloud for Enterprise for financial services is the ability to resonate with the analyst in a matter of minutes. And I think the demo, when I first saw it, I was absolutely blown away because it changed the way that you could not only analyze data, but just make sure there's uniformity across the organization. And I'm really keen on kind of diving in. But yeah. Jonathan, Nicholas, anything that you'd like to talk about before we jump into the demo?
I think one thing I might share here is that what we've built is really focused on one set of problems, right? I think where we get a lot of expansive power by partnering with industry's partners like systems integrators is even as a part of the July launch, we've worked with a number of them to build additional blueprints for other use cases that are really important within financial services, such as compliance agents, KYC agents, and insurance agents as well. So we want to make sure that we are focused on the core use cases and we really deliver deep value, but we work with the ecosystem in pushing all of the core use cases forward.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of hyped being able to see some of this because we've talked a lot about it. Nick, I know you brought a couple video examples. You want to walk us through some of those?
Sounds great. Let me just give a quick sort of preamble of what we're about to see, and then we can dive specifically into one scenario that I would love to walk you all through. So, our financial analysis solution is really targeted at solving problems that I think our finance analyst customers really know well. And it's really focused on investment research and analysis. In investing, having been a private equity investor, insights are alpha, right? The ability to sort through all of the noise in the market, either via public data sources or in a deal room, in a fast-moving deal process, to build a thesis quickly, to get to an investment decision, that's really paramount. And that's really where alpha comes from in our customers. And, some of these problems look like, analysts work in a deluge of documents every single day, right? They spend hours researching into data sources that are very difficult to verify. They spend a lot of time preparing analyses, financial models, and ticking through models cell by cell. And they also manually prepare outputs like investment memos or pitch decks. With Claude, we really want to start addressing all of these points. So let's show you what that looks like in action. Should we play the first demo video?
Go through the first one.
All right, so let's meet Sarah. She is a hedge fund analyst at Acme Capital. It's about 2 p.m. and her portfolio manager just burst into her office with an urgent question, which I think many of you can really relate to, right? Our fictitious company, Velocity Global, reported terrible earnings yesterday. Revenue is down 12%, but somehow the stock is up 17%. So her PM needs to know, is this rally justified by the new strategy or should they sell into the spike? And he needs an answer before the market closes. This is typically a 5-hour scramble. So let's see what that looks like in a 30-minute analysis. You can see that Claude has really connected to all of Sarah's tools, including S&P Global, Morningstar, FactSet, Dalupa, and even her firm's Box documents. And here's the key. Sarah is getting synthesized intelligence across all of these multiple sources simultaneously, right? Transcripts from S&P Global, sector reports from Morningstar, internal analyses from Box. And the output is, as you can see, a full earnings call analysis report, and what we call an artifact. An artifact is a really flexible and easy way of displaying many types of information, including multimodal reports like that one. And the last part that you all just saw is that you can see full financials linked to the original data sources, like we saw with one of our partners, Dalupa, so that Claude and Sarah can really verify any of these claims instantaneously. Next demo, please.
You want to go to the next one?
Yep.
So, to go deeper, we just looked at the retrieval step, right? What I think about often are 3 verbs: retrieve, analyze, and create. Now, these 3 verbs probably dominate most of what we do on a daily basis. So let's go to the analysis step. To go deeper, Sarah is now asking Claude to create visualizations and specific analyses that I recall spending, again, a lot of time just building as an analyst. So there are things like an annotated stock price chart, comps and benchmarking, and even a discounted cash flow model. As you can see, Sarah and Claude have really pulled key corporate events from SEC Edgar and the web, pricing data from S&P Global, historical financials from Dalupa, and it's prepared a number of visual artifacts, including what you just saw, an event annotated stock price chart showing the 17% spike. That was a comprehensive comps table showing that Velocity Global is trading at 21 times versus peers at 16. Here is where I get really excited about what the future could look like. Claude is even able to build a fully auditable discounted cash flow model in Excel with a functional case selector and even a perfect WACC calculation without needing to be prompted, right? I think that just goes to show that Claude has a lot of finance-specific training already embedded in its corpus. And now we're just really giving Claude the tools to really showcase its intelligence in a way that's, again, useful to humans.
Nick, thanks for showing with this. It's great to see, and also knowing like probably pain points you've had in a past life and seeing some of these be solved and being able to walk through on like the other side of it is really interesting and exciting to hear from you firsthand. With that, we are really close to the end of our session. So I wanted to make sure, JP and Nicholas, any last things to think about or parting thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I share this with everybody, and it's amazing for those that are already dialed in. I think you're already doing it, but just getting started, honestly, whether it's Claude or other frontier models. Obviously, we think there's some areas that we're particularly proficient at, and we acknowledge there's areas other models are much better at, but it's just getting started. I'll often talk to my partners, do you have these apps on your phone? Are you using them on a daily basis, even for personal tasks? Are you taking photos of things and asking it to describe what it is? You really want to ask yourself, if someone like quizzed me on, am I able to get the most out of even the basics of AI technology today? Am I getting like a 9 out of 10 on that quiz or like a 4? Because if you start to extrapolate what that means as the technology evolves so quickly, you don't want to be in that 4 or 5 bucket, because that'll start to carry forward to everything you do in your job and in your role. So just get started. Use tools like Claude to help build training for you. Like I'll often joke, I'll ask Claude, like, what are 10 things I could do to test the bleeding edge of your capabilities, right? And it'll give me these examples. So these are the types of things. Just get started, build that muscle, because this is happening. It's happening, and we're grateful to be doing it with AWS, who's got such a good handle on navigating this technology as well. So those are my parting words. Nick, anything?
We do have the QR code to make sure everyone sees that.
All right.
Well,
and if you want to chat more, we'd love to hear from you. So take a moment to scan that QR code. If we get it up, just take your phone out, scan it. We'd love to hear from you. We know we can't take all your questions today, but go to that landing page, reach out, and we'll make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. We'd love to hear more. Nick, anything you want to leave the audience with?
For sure, I would echo a lot of what JP just mentioned. I think this is really just the very beginning of our journey. Model context protocol, for example, is a really important part of the solution that you all just saw. That as a concept was conceived at the end of last year and really fully realized back in March, right? So it's been about 6 months. And
because we're just going to probably go off the screen, I want to make sure that this was fantastic, right? We going to make sure that the audience gets that QR code, and we're going to come back together with more workshops and more sessions. But this was fantastic. That demo absolutely blew my mind.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
And for everyone watching, we're going to take a really quick 20, 30-second break, and we'll be right back with Iron Mountain. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Industries Live, or if you're just joining us, welcome to Industries Live. This is a show we do every other week here on the AWS partner team, where we're talking to really interesting industry-focused partners and hearing about how they're building really compelling solutions using AWS. One of the things to note is we are live. There was a question from Frank in the last section. We are live, so if you have questions, please drop them in the chat, and if we have time and we can, we're going to get to those as well. So please keep those coming. My co-host today is Addy. So Addy, if you want to say another quick hello.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'm Addy Dubhashi. I lead our industry solutions team as part of our Center of Excellence at AWS. And my focus is financial services. So our team works with our technology partners, our consulting partners, to really solve for those line of business challenges that our customers care about. And so whether you're in capital markets, banking, payments, insurance, you really need a solution that helps you get to your business objectives. And so it often is AWS in combination with our technology and consulting partners. In the previous episode, we had Anthropic. They're at the cutting edge of this. They are able to show customers on how to build easy to deploy templates and workflows and solve for discounted cash flow in a matter of minutes, unheard of. But it's about making sure that the wider stack and ecosystem that customers use kind of can come together for the analytics that an Anthropic can bring you on AWS. And so what I'm really excited about is talking about how do you really make this happen at scale. And so that requires us to process unstructured documents. It requires us to go through silos of data that are far across the organization. It requires us to understand regulatory hurdles and frameworks so that you can be compliant and submit those compliance reports in time. When you have if you have a lawsuit or a dispute resolution scenario, you're required to kind of retrieve those signed agreements. And so I'm really excited about our next guest with the Iron Mountain team coming on, because we're going to hear about how is this happening at large production scale and what is the potential of digitization. So I'm really excited about this episode.
With that, let's welcome on Mario. Mario, welcome to Industries Live.
Jason, Addy, thank you for having me. Really, really excited to be here with you guys today.
We're excited to have you. Mario, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Iron Mountain?
Yeah, well, before I get to kind of myself, I do want to say kudos to the Anthropic team, JP and Nick. Really interesting conversation, and really kind of love that whole cook recipe and ingredients analogy that they use. So nice job to the Anthropic team. Again, thank you for having me. My name is Mario Palarca. I've been with Iron Mountain a little over 3.5 years now. Iron Mountain is kind of on the flip side of Anthropic, where we've been in business for over 75 years, are really taking care of the most important assets from a data to documents perspective for some of the largest financial institutions across the globe. When we look at kind of just the US in and of itself, I believe of the top 20 financial institutions in the US, I believe 19 of them are our customers. So really kind of, Addy, to your point, kind of just seeing what it means on the day-to-day, seeing what it means on the operations floor, how our different FIs really kind of embracing this technology, and how they are kind of applying it in a more controlled, regulated, and safe and trusted manner. As I mentioned, Mario Palarca, I've been here a little over 3.5 years, and I do look over our BFSI vertical as well. So banking, financial services, and insurance, and really taking the technologies that we have and really applying it to our largest customer problems. Addy alluded to some of the things that we have in BFSI, whether it's large documents, large data, large operating centers. So really working directly with our customers to make sure that we're driving some of those value-driven kind of additives that technology can bring to them. So, yeah, excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
No, it's absolutely exciting to have you all on. And I happened to, as part of my research for this session, I happened to check out a fascinating report that called out that there's clear intention here. These institutions that have these documents, both maintained in physical archives, but also digitized archives, they're not able to really go and transform their back office. There's intention there, there's timelines and deadlines, but it requires a orchestration between the models such as Anthropic and the technology infrastructure like AWS, and then someone who has had those documents, maintained them, and continues to manage them. So I'm really curious, have you seen that report? I think your teams have some really good insights in there as well.
Absolutely. And those kind of legacy applications or legacy workflows is really what's holding back these large FIs, right? So you alluded to a report that will soon be published, but we understand that there are close to 77% of folks believe that the digital or that the back office or the operations center should be transformed moving forward, right? With the invention of these new technologies such as agents and GenAI, folks are really understanding how AI is reshaping how they work today. It's no longer kind of like a added tool. It's really kind of the way of life going forward. Now that does bring in some interesting challenges, right? So we talked a little bit how data is the ingredient of a lot of these new technologies. And some of this data is in physical format. Some of this data is in digital format. Some of this data is in a structured format. Some of this data is in unstructured format. Oftentimes we see some of these large FIs almost like get too overwhelmed. They don't know where to start, right? And so Iron Mountain's goal is to help you understand your data in its current state and really provide some options on how to really elevate and unlock the data that you have. We agree with our previous guests that data is really the lifeblood or the gold of a lot of these new technologies. And the cliche acronym here, or the cliche saying is garbage in, garbage out, right? So it's just making sure that you're controlling the data that's training all this new capabilities going forward.
Agreed. We actually had the similar comment, shout out to our chat, of the old adage, bad data in, bad data out. So we're on the same page with that. And this report too, I know it was the big swath of the industry that was surveyed and some of those interesting insights. And I think what it shows is showing that disparity towards the back office is going to be that big focus. But right now, I think what does the report say? They're still early on into that journey. Is that right?
Yeah, well, so we surveyed over 500 leadership and kind of decision makers across 6 countries actually. US, India, Brazil, UK. So a lot of different folks kind of providing their opinions on kind of how we can use this technology. And we know the traditional is front, middle, and back office. And a lot of times the front office always gets kind of the investment. But we're proposing that in these types of technologies where you're still trying to understand how much you could trust it. You're still trying to understand how you could document the decisions being made by some of these models, how you can make it more repeatable, how you can eliminate the hallucinations still happening in these technologies. One of the things that we're actually seeing some of our clients do is they're starting in the back office. Why is the back office a great place to start? Well, it's because these are the processes that are repeatable in nature. They're document intensive. They're heavily manual and cumbersome to operate. But a good back office typically operates on high volume, low complexity, right? Versus on the front office, you're almost at the opposite, where it's high complexity, low volume, right? So when you're able to test these technologies with a large swath of scale and repeatability, That's where you can work with your regulators, your legal teams, your compliance teams, and really prove out how these technologies are operating in a more controlled manner. So that's why we believe the back office is a great place to start, just because it truly fits where we are as an organization. I know the technology is running, 1 million miles per hour, but oftentimes you've got to let all these different processes catch up, right? Whether it's the testing, whether it's the documentation, whether it's the compliance teams. There's so many kind of different examples that I could share with you, Addy and Jason, on kind of how FIs are starting to limp in and really kind of letting the other teams catch up just because of the power of this technology. But you've got to kind of let the people side and the rest of the departments really do catch up in a regulated environment.
Yeah, and I think one of the bits I read about the Iron Mountain story on AWS, you had customer scenarios where you have to help a bank digitize, and a lot of people just don't process the scale of what you mean by the digitization of documents. I think somewhere in there was the average amount of documents digitized in a day, crosses 215,000 documents. And this is across a year of digitizing millions and millions of documents. So we're talking about massive production grade digitization, but all of it requires context. Because something we touched on the previous session with our GenAI partners, Anthropic, was the importance of context so that the model understands what you have, what you need to get to, and those previous scenarios in which you dealt with that case. So if I had a dispute resolution scenario and I'm in, say, Europe, well, what was the protocol and the decision made for that particular dispute? And it goes back because the court is going to say, show us evidence that this was done in this order. So not only are you all doing it at scale, but the context that you add is going to be essential for any generative AI deployment in transforming both the back office, the front office. Those budgets need to go in the scale of the production workloads that are at stake here.
Absolutely, Addy. And I think a lot of folks kind of jump right into understanding and digitizing kind of the transaction at hand, right? So if you're working at claims, let's say an auto claim, or you're working a loan origination, a lot of us kind of go straight into the documents that support that transaction, right? Or whether you're onboarding a new client, you go straight into their KYC documents. But one of the things that's most important is the underlying policies and procedures that also govern the activities that handle those claims or those loans or those kind of onboarding transactions for a new customer or client. That is just as much as important as the subject documents to perform those transactions. Those will help with the context and the enforceability of those decisions. You almost got to think about these models as another employee, right? Imagine like another employee. They probably have an HR department that you've got to work with. They have a salary that you've got to work with. They've got you've probably did some some sort of HR type checks and balances and make sure that they're a good employee to onboard. That's almost how you got to treat some of these types of new capabilities, right? Are they a new concept that I've heard is like, should you do KYC on an agent? Right? It's like, whoa, like how do you start to think about these things? Because how do you train a new employee? How do you train a new agent? It's almost kind of the same problem, the same thing we've got to work on.
Yeah. Well, especially when you talk about the scale Addy just mentioned, like just that pure volume, but then also like putting those controls in place. I know one of the areas that Iron Mountain looks to help address that is with intelligent document processing or IDP types of solution. I'm curious, how do you see that, those kind of IDP type of solutions using AWS services, how does that merge in with this kind of new world?
Yeah, so at Iron Mountain, the way we like to look at our technology is truly like a platform, because a single kind of, I'll just keep going with a cooking analogy earlier. If you just have a pot, but you don't have kind of your utensils, or you don't have certain types of cooking techniques or tools that you have, it almost kind of feels like you can't deploy it, you can't enforce it, and you can't truly use it. So the way we look at kind of technology and software here at Iron Mountain truly is a platform where you can combine different tools and tricks and software capabilities to really drive that holistic value for the customer. So we talked about intelligent document processing, and we talked a little bit about digitization. A lot of these data and documents are still in the physical nature, But then also a lot of them are in that digital nature as well. But it's taking that kind of documents and turning it into actionable data. So that's where intelligent document processing comes in. You're able to take these legacy documents and really convert them into actionable and data that you could truly understand and action upon. So our IDP working with AWS allows us to classify the documents right then and there and truly extract the essential pieces of information that you can action upon. Now, when I say action, you could do a variety of things with it, right? So you could deploy workflows, you can enforce business rules, you can train LLMs, or you can trigger agents, right? There's so much you can do once you've kind of converted these unstructured data, whether it's in a physical nature or a digital native nature, and really kind of unlock what that next step is. I always tell folks, or a lot of my customers, these are just tools, but you've got to kind of identify what are the problems that you're trying to solve, or what are the jobs to be done, and then help us kind of work backwards from there, and then we'll give you the right tool to achieve that. But never forget that all these tools are meant to achieve something great, something good, and kind of just figuring out where those key elements need to play into.
Yeah, and Mario, something that we always do, right, with our partners is we really believe that our customers are going to see the most value when we share those mutual references, right? We want to show customers that, hey, you're not the first one we're all trying this out with. We've done this before. There are patterns to this, and it's been proven out. So something we always invest into is making sure that we can recognize our partners who built those unique solutions with us, but it's always backed by those customer references, validated blueprints. Backstage, you mentioned some really powerful customer references. Share a story with us. Tell us what that journey was like. I want to know, how did it start? How did it go? The hardships, what did it result in the end?
No, I appreciate that. So thank you for that question, Addy. So before joining Iron Mountain, I actually spent 20 years managing financial operations teams. And I know we kind of think about how digitalized, whether onboarding is or whether payments have been, but some of these kind of largest transactions that we have to do as an individual with our financial institutions are still very much manual in nature in the back end, right? So we may think that the front end is fully digital. You can interact with an app or you can interact with a chatbot to get a lot of these transactions done, but on the back end, all the compliance, all the manual processing, all the checks and balances are still fairly manual in nature, and that's what truly the back office is meant to live. And so I was working directly with a client who was looking at some of these documents that they were processing, and they had all these rules, right? For the promissory note, which is kind of one of the biggest documents in a lending transaction, which is the promise to pay. Are the terms correct? Is the borrower information correct? Is the rate correct? Is the monthly payments correct? What is the collateral that's backing this loan? Like, are those correct, right? And so there was all these kind of back-end processes being deployed. Well, we work with this customer to have IDP, look at the document, to classify that document right then and there. Oh, what document is this? Is this an assignment or is this a promissory note? Let's extract those key pieces of data. Let's kind of leverage integration points with different core banking platforms, do some reconciliation, business rule checks. Those business rule checks can enforce accuracy, completeness, enforceability. And what do I mean by that? Does the data match? Do we have all the documents in play for this specific document, for this specific transaction? And then kind of, is it enforceable? Like, if there is some sort of kind of legal proceeding that has to happen on this transaction, is it in fact valid and true? So we worked with this customer to really eliminate all those kind of manual checks and balances that they have to do to ensure that these transactions are correct. And as we look forward, this is what kind of going back to my point earlier, when you're thinking about kind of controlled environments, this is where a lot of this technology can really thrive because of that repeatable nature of it. We referenced that survey earlier, and we talked a little bit about kind of what some of our kind of surveyees said, but they also indicated that 75% of their tasks over the next 3 years will be replaced by some of these new technologies. GenAI, agentic frameworks. So it really is kind of, as I mentioned in the beginning, AI is how we work, and it's on us to kind of embrace it and really take it moving forward.
That's a great insight on just our vivid discussion has got the chat going, and I know Frank L81 has a stream of comments just sort of agreeing with sort of the complexities of the code and in implementing this on the back end. So thanks for chat for those feedbacks. Keep it coming. We'd love to hear more as we keep going.
Yeah, and I think the bit there, right? We have a global audience dialed in. I mean, we're seeing people from Asia, people dialing in from Europe and the Americas. This actually is a great segue to the way that we actually work together with our partners. So, my team manages the financial services competency, our industry solutions, and credentializing them. And so, it's a shameless plug here, but what we've seen is that it is when we've got these unique solutions well constructed, making it really easy for customers to get started, that you kind of see these snowball effects and things speed up when we can demonstrate the value together. And so something we're doing with the Iron Mountain team, also with the Anthropic team, is we're driving what we call industry sprints. These are motions where we, with our partners, will create a targeted plan for the region and say, look, here's some of the key pain areas that our customers have been asking for. We have the data of what they'd like to get to, and we set out these targeted activities, which we call as game days or immersion days. And they would say, let's go sit with our customers, sometimes in one-to-many scenarios, sometimes in one-to-one. But we're trying to say, hey, let's come together, spend that day or two, and let's try and design for you or show you the proof of how this would play out. And that really resonates. And so what we often say is, the goal is not simply to build a solution and kind of put it up on a shelf. We want to make sure that we activate a motion that can operate at global scale. So a lot of this content that we generate is intended to help us get into those customer discussions with those enterprise customers in FS and be there with them step by step. But, Mario, you're at the heart of our sprint. Tell us a little bit about that. And then we'd love to know, some of the features of the products you're taking out there with us.
One thing, too, I wanted to mention, guys, that we had a vivid discussion. We're coming... probably got 3 or 4 minutes left, so I know we also wanted to show a little snippet, a little preview of the solution as well. So just factor both in. Yeah.
Let me just make one comment to react to Addy, and then we'll get the video going, because I do think that the video does speak a million words. But Addy, we're just like with AWS, we're in 61 countries, and we understand the difference between a financial transaction in the US to Canada to Mexico to Brazil to the UK. So really appreciate the global nature of this, and it's truly meeting the customer where they're at. So let me just kind of reflect that global nature comment, Addy, and then Jason, let's kick up this video just so folks can really see how Iron Mountain can truly provide these value end to end from both our software side, but also our services side from a platform perspective.
As the cost of operating document-intensive, cumbersome, and manual back-office processes continues to rise, staying competitive means finding faster ways to better manage your documents and search for information. Gain end-to-end efficiency, compliance, and easily access information, improving customer satisfaction with Iron Mountain Digital Back Office. Built on Insight Digital Experience Platform, our AI-driven solution organizes and validates digital and physical assets in your financial institution's back-office operations. From retail to commercial banking, mortgage to auto lending, and KYC to trade financing, we work with you to transform document-driven processes from painful to efficient. Harness the power of AI by automatically splitting large documents, performing document classification, extracting critical data, and detecting document manipulation and fraud, helping you limit manual processing and tedious data entry. We simplify exception handling through intelligent business rules to identify and flag only the anomalies, increasing automation and straight-through processing. Our integration with your core platform checks that every document aligns correctly with your systems of record, giving you unmatched confidence in the accuracy, completeness, and enforceability of your data. Protect your assets using an up-to-date retention schedule based on rules and regulations, confidently allowing you to govern your assets throughout their lifecycle, from inception to defensible destruction. Unlock deeper insights with AI agents and generative AI. Making informed decisions based on real-time data and trends empowers your front line to offer a better experience to your customers. Ultimately, you can find what you're looking for faster, Summarize information with ease and ask the important questions of your data to make better decisions and drive growth. Improve operational efficiency, maintain compliance, find information quickly, and deliver a better customer experience with Iron Mountain Digital Back Office.
All right, Mario, thanks for bringing that video. I think it's great to kind of get a sense of it. We kind of amped it up in terms of automating those back office processes and such. Any thoughts you have or just kind of reflections on that and how it integrates with AWS you want to get to before we start to wrap up?
So AWS and the partnership that we have between AWS and Iron Mountain is so paramount. We truly appreciate kind of the two companies working together to truly be better together. And without Bedrock or without TextTrack, a lot of the capabilities that you saw in the video wouldn't work. So I really do appreciate kind of that ongoing partnership. In regards to the video, hopefully our audience did see that Iron Mountain likes to tackle problems holistically, right? We talked a little bit about that platform. So it's not just kind of doing point solution, but really taking a look at it holistically. Some of our solutions may involve services as well. And Iron Mountain, as I mentioned, is in 61 countries and is poised to kind of bring that physical and digital kind of solution to our customers and their back offices. So, I really appreciate, again, how we amplify each other and be better together.
Yeah, I think just to kind of look at where things would go from here, right? Which is not only do we have these well-fitting combinations that solve for customers' business needs, we're at the forefront of an agentic world. And so, historically, these workflows were heavily manual. They required several levels of pre-constructed approvals in order to retrieve a certain document. And that entitlement control is important. All of those are also within regulatory guardrails. But, in an agentic world, we're going to see a lot of this speed up. We're going to see nuanced, purpose-built agents that understand a certain type of case, and it knows where to look and it knows what to get back. So Mario, maybe a minute about, how do you see agentic coming up in your world, and what is the potential we have as a go-to-market to help our customers over the next year?
I think that we're just at the beginning, and I'm so excited to see where this thing goes. I talked a little bit earlier about high volume, low complexity. As this technology gets smarter and stronger, you're going to kind of bridge that into low volume, high complexity. And that really just kind of elevates how these agents will really transform your day-to-day back office processing. So, continue to dive in, folks, and just kind of help understand, but also think about it holistically. I referenced agents as a potential new employee. Like, think of it that way, because there's so much that we forget or take for granted, even down to provisioning of access to provisioning of laptops. But if you think about that holistically, the sky is the limit, and really excited where agents can truly kind of elevate not just kind of the software and the processing, but our workflows and the happiness of our employees as a whole. These are great tools. These are meant to kind of elevate our operations and kind of transform how we do our work. So it's not only just kind of the software side, but also, remember kind of our colleagues on the front line. I think that's our timer.
Timer. We should go to the call to action real quick. So for everyone watching, please scan this QR code so you can learn more about all the great things Mario talked about today. And we had such a great discussion that we ran out of time, which is always a good sign of a great talk. So Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you for having me. Hopefully I get invited again and we'll do it.
Absolutely. All right. With that, thank you all for watching. This has been our episode of Industries Live. We stream every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So like and subscribe wherever you're watching, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So we'll see you then.
See you then.